The rain falls in sheets, beating against the windows of the car as it pulls up to the old house. It stands silhouetted against a bruised, stormy sky, a lonely figure in the vast, empty countryside. Dead trees, like skeletal fingers, claw at the clouds. Thunder murmurs, a low growl in the distance. The young family, full of hope for their new beginning, steps out into the night, completely unaware of the house's shadowed past. As they approach, the wind whispers through the branches, and with a long, drawn-out creak, the heavy front door swings open on its own, an unwelcome welcome. The air inside is thick, heavy, and unnaturally cold. An immediate sense of dread hangs in the atmosphere, clinging to them like a damp shroud. Once inside, the lights flicker erratically, casting dancing shadows that seem to mock their presence. The walls are a tapestry of decay, covered in old, peeling wallpaper that reveals dark stains beneath. In the living room, a grandfather clock, which had been ticking a steady rhythm moments before, suddenly falls silent. Then, they hear it, soft footsteps from the floor above. The father calls out, but there's no reply. They search the upstairs rooms, finding them empty, dust motes dancing in the dim light. But the feeling persists. The mother wraps her arms around herself, a chill crawling up her spine. She feels unseen eyes on her, watching from every dark corner. Suddenly, a door down the hallway slams shut with a violent bang that echoes through the quiet house, making them all jump. Later, as they huddle together in the living room, shadows seem to stretch and contort in the hallway, moving with a life of their own, independent of any source of light. Night deepens the oppressive darkness. In one of the upstairs bedrooms, the youngest child sits bolt upright in bed, eyes wide, staring into the impenetrable blackness of the room. A faint ethereal whisper, like the rustling of dry leaves, calls the child's name. On a nearby shelf, a line of toy soldiers begins to march, their tiny plastic feet tapping softly on the wood. A rocking horse in the corner starts to sway, slowly at first, then faster. For a fleeting second, a tall, dark figure materializes in the corner of the room, a void in the shadows, before vanishing as if it were never there. The temperature plummets, their breath turning to mist. A soft, raspy breathing sound fills the silence, impossibly close. The child's quiet fear finally breaks into a terrified cry. Driven by a desperate need for answers, the parents begin a frantic search of the house. Their search leads them to the basement, and behind a stack of rotting crates, they find it. An old, heavily padlocked door. Breaking it open, they step into a small, windowless room. The air is stale, thick with the smell of dust and something else, something acrid and ancient. Strange, unsettling symbols are carved deep into the stone walls. On a crumbling table, they find a stack of old photographs. The faces of the former residents stare back, but in every picture, their eyes have been violently scratched out. Tucked away in a drawer is a dusty, leather-bound journal. Its brittle pages detail a horrifying history. Decades ago, the house was a site for dark, forbidden rituals. The entries speak of an entity summoned, an evil that was never banished but merely put to sleep, waiting to be awakened. As the father reads the final entry aloud, the lights throughout the house don't just flicker, they explode in a shower of sparks, plunging them into absolute darkness. The entire house begins to tremble. Furniture slides across the floor, and doors all over the house slam open and shut in a deafening, chaotic rhythm. A deep, guttural voice, distorted and inhuman, echoes from the walls themselves, a language of pure malice. The shadowy entity is no longer content with lurking in corners. It now flows across the walls and ceilings like liquid night. As the mother turns to run, she's lifted off her feet and thrown backward by an invisible force, crashing against the far wall. Panic and terror consume them, but the worst is yet to come. They find their child standing unnaturally still in the hallway. When the child turns, its eyes are black, empty pools of darkness. The voice that comes from its mouth is not its own. It's the deep, resonant voice from the walls. Crosses and other religious items on the walls crack and shatter, falling to the floor in pieces. The house itself seems to be alive now, breathing with a malevolent energy. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything stops. An unnatural silence falls. In the quiet, the entity whispers one final chilling warning. The screen cuts to black. Some houses are never empty. A single loud knock echoes in the darkness.